Welcome, everyone, to Click Moments and Passionate Pursuits, The Unfolding, where intuitively guided conversations are followed with feral faith, enthusiasm, and joy, bringing new insights, inspiration, and perspectives along the way. And we're your hosts, Beth Orr
and Bridget Phrase.
And today we're going to be doing a continuation of the topic that we had last time. If you listened last time, we were talking about how our thoughts lead to our experiences and our reality, but that they are malleable. That's something that we can actually change with focus and effort. And we're taking that a little bit further this time because we've heard and had many conversations with people about how the world that we're living in is super confusing. Like, we watch the news, we get information that comes in that says to us, wait, this doesn't compute. How is this a thing? And we see this polarization on both sides. And that's not necessarily something that brings us together. It pushes us apart, and it's complicated. So this, what we're going to be talking about today, isn't everything, but it's been something that's been an awareness that I've had for myself that's been extremely helpful. And so we're going to share this today. So if you've been trying to figure out, like, what the heck is happening around us and how do we start making more sense of it? And then what do you do about it for yourself?
Yeah.
What do you do? And so we're going to talk about that today. So anything you want to say to set this up?
Yeah. I just want to talk about how, to a certain extent, with everything that's going on in the world right now, in order to just function normally, just get up in the morning, take a shower, make food, get kids on the bus, there's a certain level of shrouding myself from reality that has to happen. Because if I were constantly to acknowledge the full scope of the absolute craziness that's taking place all over the place, I don't know that I would be able to just function like a normal human and not, stockpile water for impending doom or something like, to that extent. So there's a certain level of my my brain needs to ignore part of what it knows to be true during certain times. And then there are other times where it's quiet and I'm still and I'm observing what's happening and I allow everything to come in. And it's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. So, you know, as much as we talk about creating, manifesting, about um, getting centered and focusing on positive, I also want to acknowledge that all of these things are happening simultaneously. And it's a healthy response to live in each of these different compartments.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because they are compartments that we have to live in order just to function. But I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You said, in order to function in the everyday, you have to just keep it like, hey, I'm just taking the kids outside to get on the bus, and I'm just doing this next in preparation for what's on my schedule for the day. That is our biological, that's the biological part of us. That's the, when you look around and you see dogs and cats and lions and birds and all of this, that's just us. That's the part of us that is a mammal. That's the part of us that is a species that is just like, we are triggered, or I like to say activated, by the world around us. And so when we experience fear, it's just a reminder, when something outside of us causes us to feel discomfort, so much so that we're afraid for our lives or our livelihood, how we're currently comfortably living, which we are all quite happy with. When that gets pushed up against, then we have a couple of different reactions. We can face it. And those of us that have maybe jobs that we do that regularly may have more of a proclivity for that, or an inclination to that, than other people. But if you don't have experience or practice in facing danger over and over again, whether that's in that could not even be in like social services or the helping industries like police and firemen and stuff like that. That can actually be in domestic violence. Somebody has practiced over and over and over and over and over again. But there is an element of facing danger that we've got to talk about, that then that practice affects how we act in the world or don't act in the world. Okay. So what we're going to be talking about today are our defense mechanisms. And specifically, we're going to be focusing on denial and suppression. Okay. So when we think about the world right now and we try to make sense of why is it that we live in a country that we know it's not okay? There is not one person in this country who thinks that what's happening right now is okay. Whatever your interpretation of what it is, it's not okay. But yet, almost every single one of us go about our lives, just like Bridget said. We take the kids to school, we do the homework, we go to work. And in our little points of time where we have conversations, there's not actually a lot of conversation about what's happening in the world unless it's to blame other people, right? So we don't look at oftentimes what could we do different, but we get into that blaming other people. Why? Right? And part of this is we can only make interpretations from our thoughts, and that those thoughts and what we have historically believed is what's guiding our lens of what's happening in the world. So this is why you could have 100 different people and they would all have slightly different interpretations about what's happening. We wouldn't say there's any one right answer, or I wouldn't, because that ship has sailed. There's not one way to live in the world. Like if we're still operating as if there's one way, then that's part of a denial system that is baked deep in a patriarchy, right? But if you're a woman in this world, hopefully at this juncture you have some realization that as far as the scope of denial that can be in the world. I'm going to pause there. I could keep going on for a second, but do you have anything to say at this juncture?
Oh no, I'm rapt with
Okay.
attention.
Okay. All right.
I'm
Okay.
curious where you're headed.
So with denial is our these defense mechanisms. In case you're not aware of what they are, the concept is that how we make sense of the world and how we see other things is based upon what our imprints have been throughout our life, right? And so if we're younger and our parents are constantly telling us what to think and what to do, and we don't have a lot of space for our own decisions, then we start to look to the outside world to give us answers. We just believe growing up that other people tell us what to do, and we take that. Yeah. I will also say that in those predominantly male dominated fields, it actually does tend to have an element of we just tell you what to do and you just do it. So people can go into that because they are taught that you are to be seen and not heard, which means you do not have an opinion, whether it's in educational systems too that perpetuate that, but we're constantly being taught to not necessarily look within, unless we are taught that as a kid. And our parents have said, let's give as many choices as possible. We want you to be in a Montessori school where there's exploration and curiosity. And so you tend to get people that are much more willing to look intrinsically inside themselves for answers. So you're starting to see these two different opinions about the way that kids should be raised, but we haven't realized that it's impacting their ability to critically think. Or have we? I think that the powers that be understand exactly what we're making. Somebody the other day told me that it was Roosevelt or somebody who in the Industrial Revolution, that they said that they didn't need thinkers, they needed workers. And so that means you tell people what to do, you tell them where the jobs are, what needs to be done, and then you all do it. And then just make it work, right? But again, it requires a very extensive denial system as to that the world could be happening in another way. And so I'm going to ignore that the world is happening in another way in other people's lives, because if I admit that it's happening, it causes me so much stress because my worldview doesn't even make sense. Like, what do you mean there are people over here living their lives, choosing their options, deciding what's best for them? Other people around them are saying, cool, what are you doing? Instead of, you're not doing the thing.
Mhm.
And so we have two different belief systems that are playing out, and we're all operating with a certain level of denial,
Mm.
which is denial is we're unable to see something. So when you see people that are like, that's not happening, they're telling you that in their world, if they can't understand it, if it doesn't make sense to them, it doesn't exist. They think it's something they can't comprehend that there is something that's happening that is outside their purview and their understanding. So they will deny that it's a thing. And so your absolute existence in the world and your issues of what's happening, they're incapable of understanding it. Now, this is different than suppression. Suppression is, I'm aware that something is wrong, but I don't like how this makes me feel. So I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. So much so that I'm going to push it so far back that I'm going to pretend that it is not happening. And this is where you get people that are kind of gaslighting you. It feels like gaslighting. It's, you know, somebody knows what's happening in the world. They're saying they understand what's happening in the world, but they're saying it doesn't exist, or that, why do you feel that way? But they're not even asking you why you're feeling that way. They're acting like, why are you feeling that way? That there's something wrong with you for feeling it. And then they say, well, we just don't talk about this. No, what they mean is, we like the way things are. I like that I know something's wrong, but I'm not the problem. And so let's just act like you're not the problem and I'm not the problem. And I know you're saying you're being hurt, but I'm not going to acknowledge that you're hurt, because then that would require me to say that I may be the one hurting you. And I don't like how that feels. So can we just act like everything's okay and just pretend it's all right? And the reality is there are people waking up saying, I can't, because it used to be that when we had differences of opinion, then we could tolerate that because nobody was going to die. It just was inconvenient for everybody. But at this juncture, when you have friends and family who actually do deny your reality, and that reality that you're actually experiencing in life is harmful, scary, bad stuff can happen to you, and it is, and then they tell you they don't want to talk about it, then that's a whole different level of suppression and denial that then affects our ability to be in relationship with people if we can't hear each other's pain.
Okay. I'm gonna
That's a
back up
lot.
just a little bit. Yeah,
That's a lot.
but I just want to reel it back just a little bit, because I think you talked about how some of these patterns are, a lot of these patterns actually are established in childhood. So it can be really difficult when you are the person who feels endangered by a system that you're in to understand the people who you perceive to be on the opposite side of that system.
Mhm.
So I just want to float this thought exercise out there. What if these individuals who are, what I see of people who are on the side that feels like they're the persecutors right now is that they have such a deep trust for their authority figures, because I believe when they were children, when they were young, what you said, they were told to be seen and not heard. They were very firm ground rules. If you disobeyed the ground rules, you're usually corporally punished. And you had to trust, you were so shrouded from other ways of believing. You had to trust that the people who said they were good, who took care of you, who protected you, and who punished you were actually acting in your best interest. And that was so ingrained through the whole time that they were growing up, that now when they see a leader who they perceive to be authoritarian, who says, I am acting in your best interest. All of these are the enemies. We're wiping them out. We are doing these things to protect you. And that triggers that trust, that deep trust, and that safety of, well, this person is so strong and can defend me. I'm helpless. I'm a victim of all these other things that they say are the enemy. They may not even understand what's going on biologically when that happens. And so when you're a deep thinker and an intellectual and you're really analyzing everything that's going on, I think there's a part of this, and I'm not talking about marginalized groups who have been historically marginalized. They don't have a responsibility to do this. I'm talking about myself and groups like me who have a responsibility to see transparently what is going on and start understanding it and understand how the way that we think and behave impacts those people, because they are just as victimized as they believe they are, but they're not victimized by the groups that they believe they're victimized by. So what can we do to help shift that? And I think it begins with the way that we believe who these people are. And we have to deeply understand it. And it's painful to uncover that and to try to understand when we feel as though what they're doing and saying is so wrong and so cruel and so dangerous to our livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I'm asking myself to do in this time. And that's where I went as you were talking.
Yeah. And I'm going to put a pin in the how shift because I want to save that till later. I want to keep talking about what we're talking about first, because I don't want to go over it so quickly, because I feel like that understanding denial and suppression in all aspects, because it's all sides. It's a scope of what it looks like, right? So when we are younger and something happens to us, a defense mechanism stops us from not living. There'll be a part of us that we've been abused or we're traumatized in our homes, and we will close up and we will do whatever it is. There's multiple defense mechanisms, not just denial and suppression, but we will do what we need to do to be okay, meaning to keep functioning. So sometimes for people, they can't even take in that what's happening to them is happening to them. They'll go to school every single day. You'll never even know. They've compartmentalized it so much so that it doesn't exist. Number two, there's denial that you do take the risk of sharing and you share to a parent or caregiver that something's happened to you and they can't believe it. Mm. And because they can't believe that the person or the situation that you're sharing exists, and it would cause them so much damage if they admitted it, then they stay in denial. And that requires a level of suppression. At that point, you know something exists, but you just want things to go back to the way that they were, right? So it's hard for somebody who's grown up in a home where the educational system has denied them what's happening. They've ignored the warning signs because they don't want to deal with it. Families and parents have ignored the warning signs because either they don't want to deal with it or they don't have the information to deal with it, right? They don't understand what they're seeing. Mm-hmm. But at some point, they're going to grow up and they're going to be with friends and families and create their own families where that's the worldview that people do bad things to you. And actually, we just pretend like it doesn't happen. And everybody around us just agrees that it didn't happen. And if anybody talks about it, we're going to ridicule them because they're going against the system. It makes us super uncomfortable. It makes us feel bad that we're participating in it, that there's a different way. But all it's doing is showing that we just have different ways of handling traumatic things that have happened to us. And we're either continuing to get practice that this is the way that the world works, or we're looking at the world in a different way and saying, wait, what's happening? What am I thinking here? What's actually being said? And that gets to the point that what you're talking about, which is the only way to get out of this is to recognize your own in itness. You have to, it's not by recognizing that other people are in it. It's recognizing that, oh, I'm in it. Where could I possibly be in this? So I don't look at it as sides. I've said this before. I'm an independent. I don't look at candidates from a one party or another. And I've talked to many people on both sides of this who would say they're on sides, who would, some people are able to say, yeah, I don't want to be on a side either, but they feel the incline or the need to be on one side or another because of their culture. Or there are people who completely deny that it's a thing. And for me, I'm only going to talk to people that are firmly believing that I care about all of you. If I tell you, and you're my friend, that something that you're doing is hurting me, you cannot tell me that it's not. If something that you're doing is hurting me and you're my friend, if something I'm doing is hurting you and I'm your friend and I deny it and I say, we just don't talk about those things, I'm not going to talk about those things. That means I don't want to have to be responsible for it. And I'd like you to keep being responsible for it because I like the way things are. I feel really good whenever I can act like the world is this way. I hear you saying that you're hurt, but I don't. I refuse because my worldview is if I deny it enough, you'll eventually deny it and we'll go back to the way that things are, right? Where it's a temporary glitch. But there's a spectrum. We've got things happening to you in when you're younger and you're gaslit, meaning somebody, you tell somebody that you've been hurt and they minimize the pain. They act like it didn't happen. Maybe it happens over and over. But that gaslighting and that suppression and denial extends into your adulthood and can look like I'm denying, a whole group of people are saying that they're being hurt. And I'm just acting like it doesn't matter. And I actually know some of them and I'm still acting to them like it doesn't matter. That form of gaslighting is so hurtful to people. Whenever literally they'll go on Instagram or social media or places and blast entire groups of people that they love and care about, given somebody that they don't even know. If it's me and I am defending somebody that I don't even know against people that I love and care about, it's a warning sign. And if it's not, it shows you and tells you that this is somebody who has a deep level of denial and suppression that is so ingrained in the way that they see the world. You're giving the best understanding of what it is that's happening to you is not going to make a difference unless there's an opening. It's not. So you either allow that to be your dynamic and you just understand that this is the way that it is. And I'm not saying that there's any one way or not to do it, but understanding it is helpful. Just to understand, it gets rid of the crazy making. It's like we get past, I haven't been confused about this in 6 years. I mean, I'm really clear about what's happening. It doesn't mean that it's easier, but it is easier for me because I understand it. I get why people are making the decisions that they're making. But what I can't do at this point is to keep acting like I was acting before, because the way I was acting before, nobody was being harmed. Like nobody was killed, right? At this juncture, our silence is so disruptive to us when we care about people because we know that people, there's some part of us, and that's our denial then. When we, as people who come alongside people that are in pain, when we go about the daily day to day, it almost becomes an existential crisis because we're like, there's periods where we wake up and from the disorientation or the denial that is required to stay in these day tight compartments. Yeah. And we'll wake up and go, God, did I just go do this, and this today, which is completely inconsequential when there are people in our country hurting and being rounded up by people that are supposedly for us. And other countries are having to deal with our bullshit. And so we're like, well, we'll just let them deal with it. So I get a little like, this is our thing. Like, I even understand when people leave the country and have that inclination, but I also have that inclination of like, if you're going to be an American, you got to be here to deal with it because we all created it. So unless we're choosing to be in another country for the rest of our lives, which I would understand and have thought about, no judgment. I'm just saying that there is a certain amount of denial that we think that we can do this and it'll get better, and we can do this and we'll get better. But the reality is there's an identity in us that we have to align with our values and integrity. And this concept makes sense of what we're seeing. And then we have to decide, what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do? Right? So one of the things that for me, that is helpful is to practice just 5 minutes a day of being steeped in reality and that discomfort. Like if I think that I'm not in reality about something, at least 5 minutes a day, I'll say, I'm going to read about this. I'm going to search for it. I'm not going to let the algorithms tell me what, because every click that you do is telling you to give you more of what it is that you believe, and to tell you more, strengthen your belief system. So instead of taking what I would normally get from all the sources that I would get it, I try to get outside of that and take in independent information, right? So that I can actually test my reality. So I'm starting with myself. I'm like, wait, where am I steeped in this denial? How am I? Right? So for example, I have multiple friends who have different viewpoints. The friends that I've talked to who say, I don't like any of this either. I agree. What do we do? I don't care what side you're on. If you start there, we got a starting point. But for my friends that I've talked to that said, I don't talk politics. Is your life really affected that way? And then I tell you how it is, and then you still deny me. I'm not like, I'm open, you know where I stand, but I'm not going to continue to try to talk to somebody who is just trying to have the world be like this for them. Because here's the thing, we're down to the point, and I hate to be like this may get cut, just so you know, but we're down to the point where this is how my mind thinks. If the Gestapo comes and I'm at your house, are you turning me in? Are you going like this? Right over here, back here in this back room. The people that are denying you now, the people that are saying your pain doesn't exist, this isn't a big deal, what is all the complaining about? They're a bunch of whiners. That's what I've heard from people. Like, they're a bunch of whiners. Oh, really? So that's probably what you got told when you were a little kid and you were hurt. Somebody came to you and said, oh, are you hurt? They kept you back in line. You're not going to spill that stuff over onto me, right? That is a level of denial that I'm not willing to play with, because it's my life and it's my family's life. But if you are sitting here and you're like, I don't like it either, and I'm right there with you, and I feel that, I'm taking a chance with you and on you, and I'm joining in with you, and we're all in this together. We've all been duped, right? We've all been duped. But I'm not going to have an opening for somebody in this world when they deny that my experience is my experience. It's my experience.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two.
Can I devil's advocate your number one?
Yeah, of course. Ooh, I love that. Yeah.
Um,
You're like, okay.
yeah. I don't fully disagree with you. However, I think it's really important for us to step back and then step back and then step back some more. And so it is safe for us to do what you said and to recognize where we're not making headway with people and where it's time to just keep a safe distance. However, I also believe that we can be moving one of two directions. We can either be moving forward in love, together in love, or we can be moving away in division. And any action that moves us away in division, if we are truly spiritual beings who are looking to take the next right step and evolve humanity and move forward spiritually, that is not the right step for us. We have to find a way to both preserve our integrity and our safety and move forward together in love.
But we can't affect other people together in love.
We can't, no. But
so how does somebody who, okay, this is a question. How does somebody who's been harmed by people like that, people that would deny you over and over, and it's an activator for them, it actually physically causes distress in them to continue to be around, like, let's say, because I grew up in a system that you kind of kept a certain air, right? And so if you, part of your trauma is to be around people who deny your experience, then, or gaslight you, right? And say that it doesn't exist. At what point does their harm to you, because it's actual physical harm. It's not just without issue. There's cortisol and other things flooding inside you. How does like somebody then, like, it's one thing if it's like somebody close to you where it's going constantly. It's another thing if it's somebody that you're going to have contact with once every 3 months.
Okay. So obviously get yourself safe first. Be in a place that's safe. And I'm not asking for someone to love and accept everything about another person and just like brush aside what's happened. I think a safe way to take a step in this direction is to recognize the feelings that come up in you when you think of the person who has perpetrated these things or the person who is harmful, whatever their actions may be. And instead of trying to make yourself love them despite that or hold space for them to grow and change, what if you do an exercise where you recognize that there could be a part of you that may have or would in some other lifetime or in some other way have potentially caused those feelings in others?
Oh, I know I've done that.
Okay.
I mean, I know I've done that because just by being in relationships, like there's been entire times at different organizations that I've been that a person has a belief that you are a person that you are not. And no matter what you do, you can't change that perception. They will always see your behavior through a lens that is their belief system. So I've hurt people because they don't, like, I've hurt people because I unintentionally said something in ignorance that I didn't know I said, and then they never corrected me. I've hurt people who actually did have the courage to tell me, and I was so grateful so that I could actually do something different and grow. And I've had hurt people that have never told me, but I know it from other people because they believe that I'm a person that when I try to have a relationship with them, they will not accept my view of who I am or my belief system about who I am. It's who they are. Okay. So there's a whole range of possibilities.
So the spiritual work in this, then, I would say, and I could be totally off base, completely wrong, and change my mind tomorrow. Disclaimer.
I love that about us.
Okay. But I think the spiritual work then is for us to see that part of ourself, see the mirror, right? All circumstances and all people are mirrors of parts of ourselves. See the mirror and start working on loving that part of ourselves and forgiving that part of ourselves.
Say, give an example.
Okay, so I'm just going to use something that's not like heavily politically charged. Okay, so a friend has told me that they don't like the way that I parent, that they don't agree with the way that I parent, and that they don't want their kids to be around me because I parent in this way. And I take high offense to that, and it makes me super angry. What I have to do if I'm going to do the work on myself, is to look at myself and say, when have I caused those feelings in someone else? When have I withdrawn my friendship from someone for something that they did or a choice that they made?
Mm-hmm.
And then they became angry. And can I love that part of myself and forgive that part of myself? Because by doing that, we are forgiving that part of that other person.
Mm.
Because every interaction is a mirror.
Oh, oh, you thought I was mad at those people. Is that what you're saying? That that okay, because this is a
I'm
thing.
saying, so what
That
what
is
what I'm
that
saying is to try to move forward in relationship and love with people like you were talking about. We don't have to wrap them in and be friends with them anyway, but we do have to find the thing that hurts us about being with them.
great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, great point. Yeah. I agree 100%, but what I disagree with is that I still have to stay in a relationship with them.
No.
There are boundaries.
Yep.
And so there are some people that I'm never going to have any, there's not one person that I've loved and cared about in my life or that has been a part of my life that I am holding ill harbor towards. There's not one person. Even the people like that I've lost that are friends of mine, there's a grief that has gone with that, but an acceptance, but also an understanding. Absolutely, 100% of the time, I have this moment. The entry into forgiveness is recognizing myself in the other. That's a beautiful exercise because once you say it out loud and you say, "What did this person do to me?" and you're like, "Boop boop boop boop," and then you're like, "Have I ever done that to somebody else?" and you think about it, always something comes up if we're honest with ourselves, always something comes up. But that requires self awareness. If you are steeped in denial and you are steeped in suppression,
There it is.
you will not see that. You will not be able to see. You're like, hell no, I've never done that. I'd never do that to anybody else. The more sanctimonious you are about it, the more likely it is it's you. Right? I mean, seriously, the more you're just like giving it to somebody and like, oh, you, oh my God. Every single time I see that, I'm like, my God, does this person understand that they're throwing their childhood injuries out into the world and that we all see that what's happened to you and that this is exactly about you?
Yeah.
Like, I have nothing but incredible compassion for it. But I will not stay so close to you that if shit goes down, that you're going to be the person that turns my ass in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a duh.
Right.
Right. But I can forgive you. I can love you. I can understand it. I can go through these exercises to try to make sense of it so that I'm not sitting around going crazy making what the heck is happening. I want to understand it, but I'm not going to keep you so close that you can hurt me. Right.
Yeah.
So,
It is hard to acknowledge the fact that when you start to walk a spiritual path and you start to recognize certain things, you one of the things you have to recognize is that every bit of creation with which you interact is divine.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that means all of those people who are impossible for you to have feelings of love towards also have a spark of divinity in them,
mm-hmm.
and they're serving a purpose.
Yep.
And so, we could step back, like we've been talking about people who are kind of close, who are in your sphere, with whom you have interactions. We could take a step back and talk about the people who you don't have interactions with, but whose actions definitely affect the quality of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I would also say that in all of this, if you experience people or understand that you have people in your life that have denial and suppression, we all do, like, all of us to some extent. And then the hope is that we're able to actually practice being more and more aware of the times that we're doing it ourselves, which then allows for us, like once we do it for ourselves, we're getting the practice and the capacity to do it in other ways. It's easier than to look at other people when we realize, oh, I trust myself and I even do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feel the discomfort of other people doing certain things, but it doesn't mean that that it's necessarily dangerous. but it could be, right? But it feels like it. The other thing that I think is really important is that when you see things that don't align with your values, it's to take those opportunities to learn how to talk about it. Like I'm in forums where, we learn how to talk, have these conversations. There's nothing more self-damaging than to know that you have a voice, you have an opinion, you have a relationship with somebody, but yet you don't say what your opinion is. That is probably linked to some other time in your life where you didn't share your opinion, or when you did, it wasn't listened to and it was really hurtful. Mm. And so being aware, start taking those risks to have those conversations. It's what we need to do right now, is to learn how to have these kinds of conversations and to bring us closer, and to recognize that it's actually probably closer to 75-80% of our society that's on the same page. And so once you understand that, then it feels different. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, find a place to act that does align with your values and integrity. It may be hard to have an individual conversation with a person closest to you because it's so risky, but can you go to an event where there's difficult conversations? I see events in different communities that say having difficult conversations. It's with a stranger. Maybe you learn how to have a conversation with a stranger, and it gives you an understanding that helps you talk to somebody in your own life differently. Maybe you do go to a rally. It's something that you feel really passionate about, and you've never done it because you've been afraid. But guess what? Every single thing that you told yourself that was going to happen at that rally, ask yourself if it actually happened. Because if it didn't happen, again, that's our fear, and it's stopping us from doing the things that would make us feel like we're alive and invested and aware in our lives, right? Yep. So, fact check yourself retrospectively when you start to have a lot of these fear thoughts, and recognize that most of the stuff that we tell ourselves is rubbish, and that when we retrospectively look at it, we're like, oh, I probably could have done that thing that seemed like it was really important, but I just didn't take the chance because I was scared, right? Instead of stopping when we're scared, doing something different, instead of activating these defense mechanisms, actually saying, I'm not at risk. I'm going to right now act, right? I don't have anything else. Do you? Yes. Oh, I could go on. I mean, let's just be real, but
you make me want to find a way to host more of these difficult conversations. Yeah. Because I think I really do. I would just leave it with this. We're constantly taking in inputs, whether we're seeking them out or whether we're passively being given inputs. If you can remember to go back to the basics of, is this causing me division and fear and drawing away, or is this moving me forward in love and unity? In each decision and in each thing that we're shown, because we know that the best way to control people is to keep them in fear and to keep them divided. If you're divided against yourselves, then you can't come together and work towards something that you agree on. And I do really believe that humanity agrees that we want to love our neighbors, that we want to take care of one another, that the best way for us to survive is together. And I think that the way we move forward is just to, each in our own way, start taking those steps that look more like love.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the last thing that I'll say to wrap this up for me is, sometimes we struggle with this because we love the very people that have hurt us. We end up growing up and saying, ooh, it didn't feel so good to have, a parent that spanked us, or a parent that put our nose in the corner, or this, that, or the other, or told us to always be quiet when we had something to say. And we love that parent. And I would just say, good. I'm glad you love that parent. To your point, we're either moving forward in love or we're moving away. Mm-hmm. I think parents do the best they can. They nail it many times and they miss the mark many times, right? And so it's again, what do we focus on? And it doesn't mean that if you acknowledge that your lens is such that it's hurting you at this juncture in your life, what if it served you fine when you were a kid? And what if it didn't? The reality is that they did the best they could, and they're not responsible for your continued denial or suppression, or however you take what happened to you. At the point that you understand something did, you are invited to see how what happened to you in a way that can be um not something that is detrimental to you, but that is like just something to be aware of so that you can now choose a different input or view of the world. But until we understand that the world was given to us to look this way, we won't realize that there's a whole other way to see it, and it's all valid. That everybody is just seeing the world in that in a way that um, makes sense to them. We're all just trying to make sense of the world and keep ourselves safe. So I would encourage you just to think of one thing. What's the thing that just irks you the most? Just absolutely drives you crazy? Start there. Like, ooh, where am I in that? Like, where am I in that way? Instead of pointing it out, like, where am I in this irk, right? And maybe start there, or start with a conversation with somebody and just listen. Don't say, I don't want to tell you my opinion. Would you mind just telling me yours? And just practice listening to somebody and see what it does inside you when you're not trying to prove yourself and you're just listening to understand. Right. And if you love this person, like, just remember, when we love people, we listen to them, that we don't want to keep hurting them. And if our love is contingent upon people changing to be a certain way, right? Yeah.
Hey, I know this really awesome community that people can come to do that excavation work.
Yeah. All
Ever heard
right.
of it?
Yeah.
It's called the Amplifiers.
Amplifiers. Friday mornings, 8 to 9, before it's literally at the end of your week after a long week and you need some inspiration going into the weekend. So 8 to 9 in the morning. If you've taken the course, you're welcome to join us and come and grow in this material alongside us.
Yeah,
We're
and
all
hey,
learning from each other.
you want to know more about what the Authentically You course is, what it looks like, what we do, how we continue this work on a daily and weekly basis, just ask us, just reach out.
We've got a retreat coming in February. We're going to be here in Asheville in the mountains. We're going in. So we've got this delicious retreat of self-love. It's going to be over the Valentine's Day. So it's this opportunity to really love yourself this Valentine's Day and do something that gives yourself time to consider things like this.
Awesome. Hope to see you there, everyone.
Yeah.
And to Melissa Moss, thank you for our cover art. You can learn more about her at melissamossart.com. Cloud Cult for our intro and outro music from their song There's So Much Energy in Us. Find out more about them at cloudcult.com. And to all of our friends and hopefully future
Amplifiers.
members and amplifiers, yes, we love you. We wish you peace, love, and light.